Parents have a responsibility to teach their children about many different aspects of life, and one that gets overlooked often is the topic of finance. However, it is one of the most important to teach young people about. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I think it is very important for parents to be teaching their kids about the topic of finance. And I'm going to slot some examples in throughout the video that might actually be applicable to you yourself in your own situation. And if you are a young person watching this, you might not be a parent if you're watching this, I still think you might get some value from hearing what I'm about to talk about. To keep this video simple, I'm going to break it up into 3 sections. I'm going to talk from ages 3 to 14, 14 to 18, and 18 onwards, pretty much until they leave the home. Let's start in the age bracket of 3 to 14 years old. In this age bracket, I think the most important thing a parent can teach their child in regard to the topic of money is the value of money. I think the earlier they start on this as well, the better it will benefit them more in the long run. And just to be clear, you do not need to ram this message down their throat every single day. This is more the age bracket where learning opportunities will present themselves, and you can treat it as an exercise where you can just take the opportunity to actually teach them the value of money, and it probably won't hurt your own wallet too much to teach them. There's a very old experiment that I came across an article that was talking about it not that long ago, and I thought it was fantastic. It really sets the tone for what I'm talking about in this very moment, and it's the concept of delayed gratification. And the idea of delayed gratification is to put off enjoyment now in return for a higher reward at a later date. The experiment is known as the Marshmallow Experiment, and it was conducted on kids for the first time back in the 1960s, where the premise of the story basically was a kid was left in a room and a marshmallow was left on a plate in front of them. An adult was in the room with them and said, "I'm going to leave the room, and if I come back and that marshmallow is still on that plate, I will give you another one. You can eat it though while I'm not here, but if you do that, you will not receive another marshmallow." Seems like a pretty simple experiment. And the outcome of the experiment played out very differently for each child, and I've left a link to the article and a video where I've gone into more depth talking about this specific experiment if you were interested in watching or reading about it after this video. The specific thing I wanted to focus on about that experiment in this video is regarding the kids who had the understanding that waiting would bring them a higher reward versus the kids who ate the marshmallow while the adult was not in the room. Those kids are the ones who probably had already started to develop these skills in terms of the value of money and delayed gratification. And that is by far, in my opinion, the most important and valuable lesson regarding money that you can teach them from a very young age. Now, there are lots of different methods that you can use to teach this, and I think one of the best, and it's definitely a common one, it's brought up on social media a lot, is the 3-part method. The intent of using this method is that the child will be responsible for a small amount of money. Let's say their pocket money, let's say they've done some chores and earned some money. Let's say you open up an account for them and then they have basically an allowance that goes into it every week, fortnight, month, whatever it may be. And the whole concept is that you want to teach them to break this money up in a specific way that benefits 3 different categories or areas of their life. And that structure is very simple by nature. It is some is for giving, some is for spending, and some is for saving. The percentages and how you do it don't really matter too much. Realistically, you're not going to be using a large sum of money to teach this lesson. It might even only be in the span of $10 to $50, but to a child who has no concept of the value of money, this is an excellent way to introduce and start teaching these skills. And if you are interested in this specific topic, I've actually made another video discussing it called Why It's Important to Teach Financial Literacy. I've left a link down in the description below, and it kind of ties directly into this one, so definitely feel free to check that out if you're interested. And while you're down there, please do me a massive favor and hit that like and subscribe button. It definitely helps the channel grow. Ultimately, in this age bracket, the main thing to remember is that it is extremely difficult to teach a young person the value of money because it is not their money being spent. However, this is the best time to teach them because as they grow up and start to earn their own money, having those skills in place should see them having a higher appreciation for what that money is worth. Also factoring in that in this age bracket, they might start to make money from things like birthdays, they might do chores around the house, you might give them an allowance. I would highly recommend opening at least one bank account for them and then teach them how to make deposits into it. I think that's a really valuable thing to do as a young person. It can be a bit expensive exciting. And then as they get older, it won't become something that might be a little bit overwhelming. And the main focus of this age bracket, especially moving towards that age of 14, should be to just be able to have a very basic and simple conversation about very basic and simple topics in finance, such as the importance of saving and why people do it. I'm sure a 14-year-old could grasp that concept pretty easily. Okay, moving on from the 14 to 18 age bracket. This is where young people start to get casual jobs. They actually enter the workforce, make their own money that they generally will have access to. As a parent or guardian, this is one of the most important age brackets to instill good financial decision into this young person's brain. Why? Because temptation and comparison are probably going to cause a bit of grief in their life throughout this period. I remember back in high school that I was one of the very first in my year level to be getting my driver's license, and I remember being pestered every single day from my friends that this would be the time that I should probably buy a car. Now, in my mind, I wanted to buy a car because it would impress my friends. And then I sat down and had a bit more of a think about it. Now, the school I attended was at the end of my street, basically, and the casual job that I worked was only a few streets away. I could walk there pretty easily. Not to mention that I wouldn't be able to drive anywhere without my parents for at least a year, because in Australia, that's how the system works. You need to be on your learner's license for at least 1 year, which requires an adult with their driver's license to be in the passenger seat of the car at all times. Now, by no means am I saying don't buy a car if you're a young person who's just got their license, or to a parent saying don't buy your kid a car. Depending on your situation, it will vary. But this is one very specific example I wanted to make where I was feeling the pressure in high school as a young person to do this, and it potentially would have been a mistake or a poor financial decision at that time. And luckily I had the understanding to sit down and go, I have nothing to prove to these people. I can wait, I can learn in my parents' car. They've offered to do that. Very generous of them. Yes, I know that it's a fortunate thing to be able to do, but the overall point was I had the understanding to not just effectively waste my money for no reason in that very specific scenario. This would not have only been an expensive purchase for me at the time as well. I was also comparing myself to my other friends who were buying cars, and I felt the pressure just even from the comparison of where I was at compared to my friends during those years. Now, moving away from that scenario, I would say in this age bracket as a parent or guardian, one of the most important things you could definitely do is to instill some type of enforced rule of saving at least 50% of that young person's salary. Not saving for you, saving for them, as in they earn $100 in a week, $50 of it goes into a bank account that they're not allowed to take money out of. This can be very difficult in different situations. If they had started off with the 3-part method, they might understand the value of doing that. Whereas if they're a young person who's never had any type of financial rules or literacy training whatsoever, it might be a little bit harder to instill. But this is one where I saw a lot of kids my age back in high school who were my age, the same age, go down one of these two paths. One where they saved about 50%. That was what the parents kind of made them do with their casual job. They're allowed to spend the other 50%. It was pretty good at that age. They weren't buying a hell of a lot of things that were expensive. And then I watched the other group of people who just spent every single thing that they earned. And I can ramble on for days, but the point was, and moving fast forward to today, the people who save 50% still have really good savings habits and they live their lives pretty comfortably, and they've basically allowed themselves to budget and live in a comfortable space in terms of what they can spend and what they can't spend. Whereas the other group have no money. Like legitimately, I can name people, so many people that have gone down this path. All power to them, they can do whatever they want, but it's just funny watching, and when I catch up with these people and see the difference in their lifestyles, how much it plays a difference where these people have some good fundamental rules in place and these people don't. And there is a clear difference in their lifestyles, even at the age, I'm 27. I'm assuming this is going to carry forward into my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, and so on. And to keep it simple, make sure that 50% number is non-negotiable. At a minimum, 50% of what they take home each time they're paid goes into a specific account. To structure it, use a term deposit. As an example, if you want to keep it in actual cold hard savings, like cash, just use a term deposit. Use something that locks away that money for a period of time for interest in return. I know interest rates are pretty crappy at the time of recording this video. In terms of how much they're going to be making, it's not going to really make that much of a difference in what I believe to be today's day and age. Young people make anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000 a year. And if they're saving 50% of that, $5,000 at 1% interest, it's not that much, but the $5,000 sitting in that account and them having access to that when they need it or when they turn 18 is going to benefit them in the long run. During this 14 to 18 age bracket as well, I would be teaching them about important topics that will definitely come into play when they turn 18. One very good example is the topic of investing. As a young person, you can't really invest before 18. It's quite difficult to do that. Generally, they won't have the money to do it on a large scale either. However, if they have the knowledge about how to do it as they turn 18, start moving into the more proper workforce, I'll call it, they're definitely going to value these skills in the future. And just as one example, my parents had a very good understanding of property investing. I learned this through them over the years because it was talked about quite frequently. They, however, did not have a really good understanding of two other types of investing like cryptocurrency and stocks or shares. And I, looking back now, wish I had that knowledge because on my 18th birthday, I would have done some things a little bit differently, I believe, where today I would be sitting in a much different situation. Hindsight is a bitch, I guess. It's more understanding these topics is valuable, and teaching them to a young person is also valuable because if they're smart and they latch on and they want to learn more about it, they're going to have more power to do the things that they want to do from that younger age. And as we know, investing is a lot of the time it's time-based and it's growth over time. Starting them young is only going to give them more power. And finally, in this age bracket, another really important thing you can be doing for them is making them do the work. If they have something going on with their bank account, take them to a branch and make them interact with the teller. If they're earning money from a casual job, make sure that they are the ones submitting their tax return. If they're not really sure how to do it or it's a little bit complex, take them to your accountant and have them sit there and tell the information that the accountant needs to actually do this and submit that tax return. Teach them how to pay a bill. Make them pay the bill. If they have a phone, that's probably the most common one that's going to be on the list. Teach them how to use BPay. Teach them how to use a credit card. Teach them how to use a debit card. Teach them how to do a bank transfer. Teach them the simple things that might seem quite trivial to you because you do it every single day at this age, but I'm sure the first time you did it, it might have been a little bit complex, potentially even overwhelming. This is the easiest way that when they leave the nest, they leave home and they go out into the big bad world, it is going to reduce their stress levels and make them more equipped for their future. Moving on to the last age bracket now. Once they reach the ripe age of 18, they are now classified as an adult. By this age, you would be hoping that they have a decent grasp on different financial topics and have started to build, or if not have built, good habits surrounding budgeting and saving. From this point, I'm going to assume that that person is going to continue studying or they're going to start working full time. Generally, that's where they're going to go in one of those directions. Realistically, this is where you plan out and map some of the more larger and bigger decisions that they're probably going to be making as the years go on, such as moving out of home, potentially buying a house, even a car. I would consider that a relatively large purchase. Mapping out, planning how they're going to do it, how they're going to save for it, where they're going to do it, just having an understanding of what they need to understand is going to benefit them. Again, I say it every single time. This is all about developing and understanding the value of the knowledge that can set them up for life, essentially. I went from a salary of $25,000 a year to $62,000 in the span of a week. I applied for a job, I got it, I quit my job, and 1 week later, I was starting on a new salary that was triple what I was currently earning. Because I had the roadmap planned out of what I wanted to achieve and how I was going to achieve it, this only accelerated those plans. Not much else changed. I had the fundamentals down where I got a little bit of extra spending money because, I'm earning more now. So if I use a percentage-based system, which I do, I was able to spend a little bit more here and there. But ultimately, all of the goals that I was working towards just were accelerated, which was a really good feeling to have going into this new salary and not feeling overwhelmed about what to do with all this extra money. And the reverse as well not occurring, where I just wasn't going to spend all of this new excess money that I was earning. And those fundamentals still haven't changed that much today. My income has increased significantly more than that original jump from my supermarket to first real engineering job. And I still follow the same rules that I follow today with the same effects taking place. I have a bit of extra spending money and I'm able to work towards my bigger and larger goals a lot quicker with more frequency. I don't know how I want to word it, but the point is that not much has changed. My life in terms of finance is still relatively stress-free because I understand where my money's going, how my money's working for me, and I understand what I'm trying to achieve and how to work towards it. Learning about finance from a young age played a massive part in my life to allow me to live the life that I'm living today. I save well, I have a really enjoyable life. I'm able to spend the money that I want to spend on the things I want to spend it on without feeling like I'm missing out on anything. And ultimately, it comes down to just those lessons from a young age and getting those habits and fundamentals ingrained into my brain, where now it's just on autopilot. I don't really stress about money, I'm not overthinking it, and I get to enjoy my life to the fullest. I think that more people should be aware of it, and that's why I'm talking about it today. One quick tip before I finish up is to make what you're teaching age appropriate. You're not going to teach a 3-year-old about investing, and you're not going to teach an 18-year-old how to check their payslip. Hopefully they know how to do that. Teaching a child the value of money is one of the best life lessons they can learn. Finance will play a role in their life without a doubt for almost the entirety of their entire life. So getting them started younger is only going to benefit them as well. And the last line that I'm going to add to this is that people that I was brought up with, the ones who had these fundamentals and skills in place or had learned these from a young age, have gone on to succeed in other areas of their life, such as, and just I'm going to name one example, health and fitness, where they have the ability to apply the same structure, the same habit building techniques to other topics which have only benefited them. Same with learning other languages, instruments, and just being able to pick up hobbies and get into them in a way that doesn't just make them drag their feet and get bored with a hobby, but also get really immersed into it and enjoy it and get the most out of it. I can't stress that enough. These are transferable skills that are valuable in many different ways other than just learning what $1 is worth. Should I spend $1 on this chocolate bar right now? I really want to stress that the skills you learn and the skills that these young people hopefully will be taught will be invaluable as they live their lives or throughout their lives. And that's pretty much it. I wanted to really just hone in on that today. Really wanted to specify and talk a lot about it because it's an important topic to talk about. It's something that I don't think gets talked about enough. And I'm really glad that I got to make the video and the opportunity to present it to whoever's watching. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate the support, and I'm really happy with how the channel's been growing ever so slowly over the past year or so now. And yeah, it's just been a really good feeling being able to project my thoughts onto the big screen. I hope you enjoy what I'm creating. With that being said, have a good day, have a good week, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.